screen, so bear with me. So today I am here with a group of people, and we're going to be talking a bit about a project that's been going on for 4 years now. And this year is one of our priorities has been to reach out to educators, and so it's great to be part of the Special Education Conference. And really, this project is about changing the way, making our communities more supportive of people with disabilities, contributing and living the life they want, and directing their lives. And so for teachers have an important role in that. So we will share a little bit about what the work that we've been doing and some of our thoughts today. So my name is Kim Champney. I'm a consultant. I live in Juneau, but work statewide on many different projects. I recognize some familiar names of people who are here today, so our paths have crossed. For 20 years, I worked for a service provider organization in Juneau, coordinating services, and now I work with providers and entities around the state. And I'm going to have the panelists introduce themselves. And one suggestion is you could put your Zoom room in speaker view, and then you'll be able to see who's speaking at the time. That might be helpful. So our next panelist is Jenna. Jenna, will you introduce yourself?
Sure, great to be here. I'm Janet Crafton. I'm on the Governors Council. I'm on the chair for DD committee with Governors Council. I'm a Len Fellow, and I intellectual disability, and I'm a Zoom instructor, and I was on NPR talk about disability with COVID.
Thanks, Jenna. And Travis.
Hello, everyone. My name is Travis Noah. I live in Anchorage, Alaska. I've lived in Alaska since 1991. I am professionally a peer advocate. I work for an agency called Hope Community Resources, but my position is unique in that as long as a person is either somebody with any type of disability or a senior with physical or mental challenges, I can assist them no matter what part of the state they're in. I have been an advocate for people with special needs since I was about 18.
Thanks, Travis. And Cindy.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Cindy Hensley, and I'm out of Anchorage, Alaska. I am the CEO and president and co-owner of a service providing agency called Cindy and Vix R&R, and we provide supports and services to adults who experience intellectual and developmental disabilities, and I'm excited to be here today.
Thanks, Cindy. And Wendy.
Hi, my name is Wendy Cloyd, and I am in Fairbanks, and I am I'm a mother of four, three of whom have Fragile X syndrome and have used special education services from preschool through graduating from vocational education at age 22. And being immersed in the special needs world brought me to work at Fairbanks Resource Agency, an agency which provides support services to people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and their families.
Thanks, Wendy. And Lynn.
Hey everyone, my name is Lynn Heiser. I'm a retired special ed teacher from the Anchorage School District, and I'm the owner of a care coordination agency in Anchorage. And in my role as a care coordinator, I support people with disabilities and their services in Anchorage and the Mat-Su Valley.
Thanks, Lynn. And Adam.
Hi, my name is Adam Ahonen. I am a life skills special education teacher. We work on functional academics for students in high school or grades 9 through 12 that experience intellectual and developmental disabilities. And this is my 24th year working with individuals who experience disabilities. So thank you so much for having us. We appreciate it.
We do appreciate it. And we're going to dive into our presentation. We're going to try to move fairly quickly through some of the information so there's time for questions at the end. And if you have a chance in the chat to put where you're from and what your role is in education, that would be great for us to know. And also, I think for other people who are participants in the session to know who's on. So if you want to do that, that would be great. So there are two parts to our message today. And the first part, the first half, is really about values. It's the, kind of the framework for what our work is. And then the second part is we want to provide you with some tangible resources and tools that could help you in your role with students. So we're going to start again with values, and our values are driven by the shared vision. And we thought, wow, we can't do a presentation on the vision without giving you the vision statement. And this vision was developed through a process where we talked to over 200 people about, if you could really create an ideal world for people with disabilities in Alaska, what would that look like? And so this is the statement that came out, and that has really been driving this movement. So it's that Alaskans share a vision of a flexible system in which each person directs their own support based on strengths and abilities toward a meaningful life in their home, their job, and their community. Our vision includes supported families, professional staff, and services available throughout the state now and into the future. And I always like to remind people this does not describe today, it describes what we're working toward. And so we're all working in this together, and it's been a very collaborative effort. So I'm going to let Travis and Jenna are going to just kind of talk through the values that we want to share with you to kind of create the framework. And so Travis, can you start us off with this first value?
Yes, I can. The first value is each person directs their own supports. That may sound self-explanatory, but when you think about it, really what that means is they don't just get services through, let's say, the school district or a waiver, for example, because most of us that are on this call today work in the waiver system. It also means that within those services, them or their family members can help them choose the way they want to live their life and direct what supports they get within that system.
Thanks, Travis. Yes, there's a lot to that one, and it stands alone, which is for a reason that that really is an essential concept that we've been working on. So Jenna, do you want to share this next value?
Sure. Build strengths is something you're good at it and your goals.
Yep, focusing on what you're good at. Travis, number 3.
Presume competency. Sounds kind of ominous, doesn't it? Truth is, when somebody with a disability comes into any set of circumstances, our job when we're assisting someone is to presume they have capability. Don't presume that they don't just because of a diagnosis or what you see on the outside.
Great, thanks, Travis. Jenna, number 4.
Diddy take risks is you do your strengths.
Also
take risks.
Right, and try be allowed to do something that you might get hurt, but you want to try it, like how to make your own decisions, right? Right. And then Travis, this last one, the focus of transition is to leave school with
a full life. That basically means anything that you can possibly think of. But the best way to think about it from a school teacher perspective is you leave your students with the best skill set that they can attain before they leave to prepare them to live outside in the real world.
Yeah, and let's hear a little bit more about that. Travis, why don't you share a bit about your story and kind of what's helped you along the way?
As I said earlier, I've lived in Alaska since 1991. So I've attended school in Alaska from about the 5th grade year on until the end of 12. Most of my life, I moved around a lot. My family's retired military family. School was never easy, partially because of my disability and partially because of my father's career. One of the big problems really came when high school hit, though, of I didn't really know what I was capable of because most of my life, every teacher thought that I wouldn't amount to much. And again, it comes down to presuming competency. Because I have what is called cerebral palsy, it's automatically assumed most people with cerebral palsy also have an intellectual disability. I don't. I do have a bit of a learning challenge, but that has to do with my physical limitations, not my mental limitations. So therefore, it became hard for me to really learn because of my challenges. When I hit 7th grade, I was having trouble in school, severe trouble with learning. And my mother wanted to hold me back, wanted me to take 7th grade over again. As teachers, I'm sure you've heard of the No Child Left Behind circumstance. Well, basically what that meant for me is I can fail all my classes, but yet I was going to get moved forward to the next grade because the school system says we can't hold Travis back. Well, my mom didn't like that. She wanted me to learn and push it. Throughout my entire school career, it got worse and worse. Every time I tried to do something in class and I had trouble, a teacher was like, Travis can't handle this, because not the teacher's fault in 90% of the cases, they're not trained enough to deal with a variety of different set of challenges and learning styles because of disability. That's in fairness, that's what it is. So it wasn't until my junior and senior year of high school that I realized I was going to have to do this on my own and put forth the effort, because my mom and dad had me mainstreamed. I wasn't in special ed classes, which really threw a lot of teachers off because they figured severe physical disability, severe learning challenges, he needs to be in special ed. My parents refused every time they were told that's what I needed to have done, which I'm grateful for. Long story short, my last IEP meeting, I graduated at 17. Most people graduate at the age of 18. I was allowed to run it because of that. And everybody in that room, except for 2 teachers and my mother, felt that I would not be able to have much of a life, much less hack it in college, due to my limitations. To this day, minus the fact I had a class issue, I now have around a 3.25 GPA for college courses, and I now am advocating for people with special needs and seniors for a living. And I do a lot of advocating personally. What this boils down to, folks, is we're not alone when we do this kind of work. No teacher is going to know everything. Your life is going to take you in directions that even you can't anticipate. You're going to have students with disabilities that are going to touch your lives in ways that you can't imagine. So just presume that your student has capabilities you aren't aware of, and it's your job to help them figure out what those are. But the positive ones, not just what they need to work on, strengthen their lives by letting them focus on their strengths.
Thanks, Travis. I feel like that's the perfect segue to our next story, actually. Did you have anything else, or were you?
No, I'm good.
That I was thinking that was about the time. So I want to introduce our next advocate, Jenna Crafton. And Jenna, can you tell a little bit about your life experience and any words of wisdom that you can pass along? And Jenna is there with a special guest. You can introduce your guest too.
So, this my guest, my dad.
right.
He's gonna talk a little bit later. I was born in Alaska. Go to school all the way up to 6th grade, and then we move away to Maryland, and the math is so difficult, and they try to grill you with math, like trying to grill you to understand math, and still this day I don't understand math. Never will, never has. So don't. Math is me. Two worst subjects in life. But I'm really social and I love meeting people. I'm a social genius, some people said, and we then we moved from Maryland to Florida, and then 8th grade, my last year of school, and the peer pressure was so bad, I had to go to the nurse's office to get hives because the peer pressure is so bad, and they had to call my mom from her workplace and said, "Oh, your daughter having hives. My lips get so swelled up," and I had to go and get some ice on it and make it swell down. And after that, my mom and my dad decided to finish 8th grade, take sailing, and then we changed and work on your strengths in a positive way, like meeting people and be social. And my dad say something.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for doing what you do. My name's Tom, Jenna's dad. And yeah, Jenna struggled with math. And like Travis, Jenna was mainstreamed all of her life in school, and that was years ago. But she would come home almost every day crying from math and the pull out, like Jenna said, being drilled or trying to catch up in areas. And it was a legitimate try, but it wasn't working. And like Jenna said, she's not good at math today. So she uses a calculator. And Jenna was able to travel the world. We sailed around the world for 7 years. And we came to understand more and more Jenna's gift to all of us. And that's a social, warm, caring, loving, outgoing person to a fault. And it made me realize, I'm a clinical psychologist, and it made me realize that Gardner was right. The IQ tests and things I was taught to utilize and implement, they have a place. But Gardner had this idea there were 7 or more different types of intelligence. And we do call Jenna a social genius at times, in that how did Jenna use this quirky skill of meeting people and turn that into a life asset? Well, she meets warm, caring people at the hardware store. They become friends, and then they help her navigate this complex world through natural bridges. Well, that's brilliant. That's what Adam, looking at life skills, I think that's a great use of this quirky skill. Who could have thought that could have been used in school in a different way? We didn't know how to use it, but Jenna has taught us. She sailed around the world, and she was the conduit to meeting people in leaf villages with no clothes. She told stories and laughed, and we couldn't communicate. Language is superfluous with Jenna. She connects on the cellular level that I don't understand, and I'm very outgoing. Jenna, I still take notes of how she does this. And so we've allowed her to use that strength, and it's opened up the entire world to her. And now she's on to all kind of meaningful work and a meaningful life. And what a gift it is to just be part of that and watch. Anyway, thanks again for all your work.
And one more thing before I get back to Kim, and they said, "Oh, you can't finish high school," and they said, "Oh, you work at McDonald's and went sailing, and then we came back, and I finished high school 2019. That was a big compliment, con, big compliment for me,
Confidence.
because
Mhm.
on resume she's like, I
Mhm.
high school diploma. I was like, I got one. and we need to and have people in school and see if they'll have strengths
Ah.
to work on too, because people, the students and the teachers want to have the students be more successful
Mm.
and have trade school or volunteering.
Great. Thank you so much, Jenna. And we share these stories of Jenna and Travis, their struggles that they had, not to be negative or blame. It's what do we take from these experiences and give back and help make those educational experiences more meaningful for the students today. And we also want to share just some more tangible, specific resources. So that brings us to part 2. So how can a teacher support the vision? And you don't have to do it alone. You aren't carrying the burden on your own. As community advocates and supporters, we want to support the work that you're doing and helping people leave school with a life. So here we have some resources, and I'm going to spread around the opportunity to share with you all. And the first resource or suggestion is really about making connections. And I'm going to let Adam, our teacher on the team, share a little bit about that.
Hi, everybody. You guys, thanks again for being here. Can you guys hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so connections, inside school and outside of school. Talking about that rec leisure, those social opportunities, and given that typical high school experience that we see. Friendships, that sense of belonging, school clubs and activities geared towards individuals with and without disabilities, and helping facilitate those connections. Community organizations, reading in the chat box here, we have people from all across the state and all different types of roles. And so, looking at connecting, whether it's helping your teachers or helping families that you work with and serve, to find those community organizations that help. Advocacy organizations, Peer Power, Key Coalition, or the Governor's Council, for example. And then looking at that employment and volunteering. It's a big part of life, is those opportunities and volunteering at a younger age and getting involved, and then using those soft skills and work maturity stuff to work on employment.
Thanks, Adam. And we're going to hear more from Adam and how he kind of coordinates this as a teacher in a little bit. The next one, seeking, so number 2,
Mhm.
that's Lynn, I think.
Hello, everyone. I wanted to talk a little bit about how to help students prepare for life after school, and it ties in, of course, everything we're talking about today. One of my ex-students is now a client, and she and her mom have a team with me, and she leads her own meetings. In the post-school years with waiver services, our individuals have meetings and plans, much like their IEPs. So this person and her mom run their own meetings. And her mom says to her in her meetings, "You're the driver of your own bus." And she just prompts her to keep going, and she does it. And I wanted to talk a little bit about things you can do to help students be the driver of their own buses. We don't know what we don't know. You can help, and you do help students find their strengths and interests every day. I know the teachers are doing all kinds of things in the community and classroom and offering choices and helping students learn about themselves. I wanted to share a quick story. I had a student who at one point told his team that he wanted to be a police officer. And everybody on the team was like, well, that's not going to happen. He can't be a police officer. But we dug around, we dig deeper, we asked more questions, we did a little more interest inventories and question asking, and turned out that what he really wanted was to wear a uniform. and he wanted to have an outfit with a hat and a shirt like the police officers wear. And he's been working in the community now for about 20 years, and he has what he wants, and he's successful. But we just had to find out more information. We had to find out what his strength and what his interest was. So I guess I encourage teachers to dig a little deeper when you're offering choices and finding out information about your students. Find out what it is that really interests them and makes them tick. And that information is super helpful as they're transitioning out of school. And it helps people feel good about themselves to learn about themselves. Communication is huge. You all do a lot with receptive and expressive language skills. But I wanted also to have you consider another thing that you might look into a little more intentionally. And I don't think I did this well. I think if I could go back now, I would be more intentional in teaching students that their voice matters and that people will listen to them, and to help them build that confidence and that self-worth in school. And there are things happening in the schools. You're doing it, really. It's just that I think that you can do it a little more intentionally. Morning groups. I'm sure classrooms are full of teachers and students talking about their day and what's going to happen, but the students could be leading those. Before students go to job sites and in the community, there are small groups, planning groups of what you need to take and when you're going to go and all those things, and the students can be leading those. At the end of the day, same thing. Students can be directing these conversations and their staff can be supporting them. And this gives them self-respect and dignity and helps them be the leaders in their own education. I think one thing that's happening in the schools that is awesome and definitely does this is the students are speaking at their own graduations and they're giving their own speeches. When we started that, we as the teachers were speaking about our students. And now I'm like, oh, I can't believe we even started that, right? And it took a parent to say, you know, they could be talking about themselves and giving their own speeches. And it made so much sense, which leads me really to my third point. And that is that there's a quote that the shared vision and advocates really embrace. And it's nothing about me without me. And I just have to say that again. Nothing about me without me. Students need to be included in discussions and meetings. The discussion should be with them, not about them. Students need the opportunity to have that dignity and to be responsible and to be at the table as a part of the team. And then I think they'll surprise you, because I have found many students not only participate, but they end up driving their own bus. Thanks.
Thanks, Lynn. Our next one is Travis. I think you were going to talk about this one.
Shared vision, speakers, and mentors. Load of a mouthful, right? When you consider several different words and several different statements. There's an easy way to understand this, and I'll use myself as an example. When I was going to school, I was one student out of my entire high school graduating class that was disabled. There was no one else in my graduating class that graduated that had a disability. I was the only one. I had nobody to lean on, nobody to ask questions of, no mentor, nobody that had experience to say, hey, life is going to be hard. You're going to be throwing curveballs. This is what it's going to take. And your teachers, if you tell them you're struggling, will help you learn how to work around that. It's part of what they do. But it would have been helpful for me to have a mentor. I had to learn it all the hard way. I had nobody. So the point of this is, as a teacher, in my view, one of the easiest ways you can drive the vision forward is, one, understand you are not alone and you can't do everything. No teacher can. Even the really good ones. I had a really good one that was in my life for years, even after I graduated. Help your students find outside connections, Or if you know of one, bring it together with those students and let those people help them where you can't. That's the biggest key point of that.
Thanks, Travis. And I did want to mention that there's a handout that's available through the LMS as part of your registration with contact information. And we do have a big group of adults with disabilities who would welcome the opportunity to speak to your students and to even have a one-on-one ongoing relationship. So we wanted to offer that. So Wendy, do you want to talk a
Sure.
little bit about this? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to say I just love what Lindsay said, that nothing about me without me, and letting students lead, because that I get teary-eyed, sorry, when I talk about my kids. I apologize ahead. But that hasn't always been the case. My 28-year-old daughter, Carly, when she's asked a direct question about what she wants in her future, will still look at me to answer. And of course, I direct it back to her and say, you're an adult, you can answer that question. But it's because of years of people talking about her in front of her, but not to her. And that's partially my fault too, and I've learned. But I thank you that there has definitely been a shift. And I just want to say thank you for that. So my part is that parents need resources. And I would like to just say that my diving into the world of having kids with special needs. I mean, I was a single mom with 4 kids, 3 of whom had special needs. And I mean, that was my world and I was immersed in it. But it wasn't until I came to work for the agency that I work for, which is Fairbanks Resource Agency, that I had a knowledge and understanding of what was available to my kids. And it wasn't, I didn't know what was out there. And many parents of special needs kids are overwhelmed on a daily basis and have limited bandwidth at any given time to even try to even know where to look for resources. So during their school time, they were wonderfully supported. And I'm here to talk about the transition from that wonderfully supported environment of the public school to life after. And for the most part, when we have students in school, we're preparing them for that adult life. And we see our typical children enter the workforce and go to college, and they have a lot of choices out there, and we expect them to make those choices, but things are different for special education students. And we often talk to them about what they want to do after graduation and want them to dream big. And we have them, both of my girls left high school with a dream board about what they wanted to do with their future. But the real world is a little bit different than it is for a typical graduate. So my daughter, for example, when she graduated from the Bridge program, she had been working at a veterinary clinic, preparing dog treats and walking the dogs and playing with the dogs. And she wanted to work at that vet clinic after she graduated. That was her dream. But that vet clinic said, well, we're willing to take those high school students because we don't have to pay them, but we don't want to hire her now. And that was a crushing moment for her. So I guess what I'm here to say is that there is a need for us to prepare our children to dream big and to give them the tools, but we also need to get community employers to value disability workers, who, by the way, are the ones who show up. Statistics show that the disability workforce is much more reliable than the general public. And so it's a frustrating thing as a parent to watch my daughter have her dreams kind of crushed. And she, anyway, I attended a conference when my kids were very little. I attended a special education conference in Anchorage, and the theme of that conference was from inclusion to belonging. And I've never forgotten that. That has been my guiding mantra for my kids from then on. So thank you very much.
Yeah, they're lucky to have you, Wendy. And I was just thinking, I mean, I think that that's what the shared vision is about, is that kids in school there's high expectations for them, and they're put in leadership roles, and they leave school and the community is ready and has high expectations for them, and they have opportunities. And that's the bridge we're trying to build today, like right now. So this last one, Cindy.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay, Kim?
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say right up front, life is happening as we speak. So I said, Kim, I'm going to have somebody come into my door right in the middle of the conference. I'm sure of it. And right when I came. So you hear lots of ding dong, it's my dog barking at the door because my tire's getting pumped up by AAA. So there we have it. And but what I'm here to talk about today is how service providing agencies are critical and crucial to individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities as the journey of life continues. And so as teachers, we look at support systems. So we look, teachers are supports, we look at family systems, we look at natural supports. And one of the other supports that we need to continue to look at is the service providing agency supports, who are the continuation of services from school to adulthood. And so one of the things I just want to bring to the table today is that there are many service providing agencies out there. They provide a variety of different services, whether they provide day-hab or residential services or respite services. There's a bucket full of services that every agency supports and provides. And that the information that teachers and families need to be resourced with is that not all services need to come from the same basket. So you don't have to have all of your eggs in the same basket. And I think I didn't mention this, but I am also a retired teacher. I was a transition teacher with Lynn Heiser, actually, and at the program here in Anchorage, the ACE ACT program. And so when we're looking at transition services and looking at continuation of services after school, there's just a variety of things that we can look at, from one agency that supports people with supported employment. Perhaps it's another one that does residential services, and another one that does respite. So again, my message today is just, please take yourselves shopping, take your family shopping, take the individuals shopping, because it's their life. They provide the choice. They get to choose the lives that they want and direct their services. And that means choosing from a variety, not just one. And I really want time for questions. So I'm gonna shush for a moment and we're gonna continue on. Thanks.
Thanks, Cindy. So we just have this last, this is our last little section, but just a few more words to leave you with from the different perspectives that we represent in this group. And so, Wendy, I wanted to, are there other things you would add to what we've heard you share about your family?
Well, I would just like to say thank you to all of you who dedicate your careers to serving this population, because many of the teachers my kids have had along the way have become dear friends, because they just love my kids, and anybody who loves your kids is wonderful. And I'm just saying thank you, and just know that parents need you. I needed all of you. I needed them, and they need you to help them figure things out. And thank you for doing that.
Thanks, Wendy. And then our service providers, Cindy and Lynn.
I was just reading in the chat from Anna Lee, and about, that this is a struggle in rural Alaska, that people are told, move to Fairbanks or move to Anchorage. There's no services here, rural Alaska, it's a struggle. And I just really want to say, I just, I can imagine, I'm not in rural Alaska, but I can just imagine. And to really, one of the things that I think about is really the natural supports that are available, and to really lean in to how we as a community can support one another. It's not always the way I was a teacher and I saw a need after for continued education and continued learning. And so I didn't see an agency out there to provide the things that I wanted to provide, the things that we were teaching in school. And I started an agency. So I'm not saying that that's for everybody, but there are different things that we can think out of the box. And so if service providers, finding in a rural area are challenging, let us support you. Let's brainstorm together. How can we do this differently?
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah, that'd be great.
And anything else that you would add? Either of you? Or okay.
Get connected. And I think Lynn said it earlier, and we've all talked about it. Nothing about me without me. I have individuals who are 30-year-olds who have been, continuing to look at advocacy And just recently, one of those 30-year-olds made a decision for herself that her parent was not in alignment with. And the parent said, it's your life. And she's 30. She's finally just getting this within herself. And so if we can support individuals to get that, they have a voice, they have a choice when they're younger, like that is so critical.
Thank you. And now Adam, our teacher.
Yeah, just when looking at, students' overall health and well-being, that sense of belonging and those social connections are just so important. So I guess from me looking at that rec leisure point of view and offering those opportunities, and I realized that once I created that opportunity within our space and in our school, that it really grew organically and that students made those connections and lifelong friendships. And we've had students that have been maid of honors and weddings, to speaking at funerals, to everything in between, where I've ran into people from our program out in the community buying pumpkins that they were going to go carve together, and ran into them at theaters. So those connections do last. I also noticed that students that we get connected in high school, whether it's clubs that are focused on individuals that experience disabilities, or clubs that don't, get to know your kids, how and it said that and figure that out. And like I've had kids that have been in the anime club or the B-Boys breakdancing club, or participated in the seniors boys versus girls. And so all those social connections and instilling that confidence. And I really think that helps connect them. And I think that students that get involved in high school are also more likely to find those community agencies once they leave high school, and stay involved with things that they enjoy, and a way for them to connect with their peers all the way through adult living and post-secondary opportunities. So I think that just helping find out who your students are and helping them make those connections is really, really important.
Thanks. I know we're pretty close to the end, but I think that you've heard from us that while information and resources may evolve, it's really about helping somebody leave school with a life. And I even think in the rural areas, like Cindy said, leaning into what is life in that community, and who are the connections and the places that the person can give to and be a part of. And it's seen as a teacher, seeing that as your role of it's not just about skills in the classroom. It's not about learning math, and not that that's necessarily how you think, but like I hear that from Jenna, it wasn't about learning math for her. That was the most important thing in her life. So we do have this resource list with websites, contact information, and we did want to thank these are all the, and I know you have a copy of this PowerPoint, but these are the different organizations that have been involved in this particular committee. We have over 100 people working on the Shared Vision project statewide. And it's the Mental Health Trust has been a big funder, but we wanted to open it up, and I haven't been looking at the